4 flights up. Let's go ahead and get the Bonanza started here. So flying the Bonanza V-tail, the V35, the reality expansion pack. So, already got the battery on. Gonna go ahead and put all the levers forward here. Let's get our beacon on, make sure our parking brake is indeed set, and our avionics are off. Okay, before we get started here, let's just double check. Go ahead and fill these tanks up. And just double check that everything's okay. Been a while since I've flown this. Adjust the audio because it's going to get nice and loud in a second. That's better. Alright. Let's see here. Alright. Okay, so all the electronics are good. We're going to go ahead and put the fuel on the left-hand tank to start. And throttle goes down to 8th. Good start. Gonna lean out the engine a little bit. Alright. Avionics can come on now. Could go ahead and put our nav lights on. Cool. Alright, so we'll go ahead and get the weather, and we'll also get clearance to get out of here. While we're listening to the weather, we'll start programming our GPS here. Alright. So we're going to be going from... First, let's clear this out. It's been acting funky lately. Yeah, it still does that, which is fine. So we're Kilo Golf Echo Golf. And we're going to Uniform 60. Here we go. Just double check and make sure that looks correct. That is us. Wonderful. Alright, so we're on COM 1 here. And ForeFlight is working. So we've got a TFR. Okay, TFR is inactive. Perfect. let's see. Got a bunch of expired data in ForeFlight. Let's go ahead and re-download this stuff real quick. Alright, so ATIS is 2432.
Spokane International Information Whiskey. 2200 Zulu weather. Wind light and variable, visibility more than 10. Sky conditions 7,000 few, 20,000 few, temperature 29, dew point 2. Altimeter 3000. Arriving runway 21, departing runway 21. Advise on initial contact you have whiskey.
Cool, so we have whiskey. Let's go ahead and get out of that. Set our altimeter real quick here. Great, and the wind's pretty gnarly, but runway 21 is probably going to be what we get. Otherwise we're going to have a pretty hefty crosswind to deal with. So I'm using a new audio setup here, so let's double check my configuration here. Oh. Yep, no, that's correct. So we're going to go ahead and give ground a call on 121.9er.
Clear Dallas 41 left approach.
That's super loud. Let's dial that down a bit. And let's make sure I know where we are. We're on the central ramp.
Number 60, like, yeah, Roger. Do you have the weather there? Roger.
And we're looking for a VFR departure to the southeast. And we're looking for 10,000 feet. It's going to be our cruise. And we'll go ahead and get flight following today because we can.
Let's not get to Victor Mike. This vector may take you inside the final approach course, so that is fine with you. Or final approach gate, sorry.
Still nice and loud. Let's see if we can fix that.
Number 2 Victor Mike, the vector for you to intercept will take you inside the final approach gate.
Let me just grab some plates here. Alright, we'll go ahead and give Spokane Ground a call. Spokane Ground, Bonanza 401 Tango Sierra is at the central ramp with whiskey. We'd like a VFR departure to the southeast at 10,000, flight following to uniform 60.
Number 401 Tango Sierra, Spokane Ground, squawk 25 and 15 in standby.
2515, 1 Tango Sierra. Okay. 2515.
Bonanza 1 Tango Sierra. Verify you had Charlie. Sorry I didn't listen to that one. Runway 21 taxi via Golf.
Alright, 21 via Golf. We're at the central ramp and we have the weather.
That's 1 Tango Sierra, Roger. And Golf, 2 intersections also available if you like.
We'll go ahead and take full length to 21.
1 Tango Sierra, Roger. Runway 21 full length taxi via Golf.
21 full length Golf, 1 Tango Sierra. Alright, brakes, release. Quick motion check here, good to the right, good to the left, and the regular old brakes work.
Number 6 JQ, advise when you have the South Oregon Airport in sight.
So Golf is the taxiway directly ahead of us, so once we're past these stripes, so that's Golf. Go ahead and make a right and then go all the way down to 2-1, and we should be good out of here. And you get a departure frequency, so we'll just watch out for that once we're on the way out.
Other 2 Victor Mike on our capital tower.
Alright, and I'm gonna real quick here. Turn that way up.
Capital
That's
tower.
just, like, not quite
Seneca's
as smooth as I
302
want.
Victor Mike is ILS from 6 left.
Alright, this should happen relatively
302
quickly.
Victor
Hopefully.
Mike.
Still on the taxiway.
Capital tower, runway 16 left, cleared low approach.
And cleared low approach for 16 left for
There we
2
go.
Victor Mike.
Oh, I think that put my parking brake on. Okay, that was fun. Alright, so we're continuing off of golf. We'll turn off in the hold pad, do a run up real quick, and let's see, tower frequency is 118.3. So go ahead and dial that in. And we'll get that ready.
For 6 Kilo, roger, radar service terminated, squawk VFR, please change your frame.
These brakes are super loud. I think the audio is not quite, I don't know what it's doing. Let's go ahead and put the parking brake on, do a real quick run up here. So our brakes are set, our instruments are all good, vacuum's good, fuel pump is off, mixture is leaned. So we're going to go ahead and go full rich, and we're going to go power to 1900 RPM here. Okay, power set, and cycling the prop. Prop's good, idle check real quick. Great. Back up to 1000 RPM. And magneto check. There's the drop. Go all the way back. Oh, that went off. That's not great. Lovely. Okay. Real quick, let's do this. And back to an eighth. Great. That was a pretty terrible run-up, but I blame the manipulator, not me. So everything else looks good. Let's look at their temp and pressure here. Everything's fine, our fuel's good. So let's go ahead and call up tower. Also definitely turned on the engine with the avionics on, which isn't a good idea. Spokane Tower, Bonanza 401, Tango Sierra, holding short 2-1, ready for departure.
So 401 Tango Sierra, Spokane Tower, say direction on flight.
Oh, we're going southeast.
41 Tango Sierra, roger, on course departure approved, runway 21, clear for takeoff.
21 clear for takeoff, on course departure, Bonanza 401 Tango Sierra. Yeah, Explain 11 looks beautiful. It's definitely a market improvement in sort of like a lot of different small ways. Performance-wise, it's been pretty good. This is probably like at the higher, I mean, this scenery isn't like fantastic, but as far as like complexity, it's got a lot of objects. Right, nobody on the final approach course, and nobody on the runway. So strobe lights come on, landing lights come on. Full rich, full
Sacramento
prop.
Tower, Seneca 302 Victor Mike is missed approach
And
for
here we
ILS
go.
16
Crosswind
left.
corrections in, power is set. And airspeed's alive.
Right 2 Vic Mike,
And rotate. Right, positive rate. Gear comes up. thrusters up and locked. Go ahead and reduce to our climb power here. Looking for about 25 and 25.
R2 Victor Mike.
And we're going to go ahead and make our left-hand turn.
This published missed approach procedure, then contact NorCal departure 125.25.
Number 5, published missed and go to 125.25.
San Francisco clearance.
Someone calling for San Francisco clearance, gone.
Roger, this is November 287 Juliet Bravo. Let's pick up our clearance to Sacramento.
And we're going to go ahead and set our
287
autopilot
Juliet
up
Bravo,
here. So
San Francisco clearance, semi.
10,000 feet at about 600 feet per minute.
Alright, 7 Juliet Bravo. Once again, I'm assuming your aircraft type's EA50 slant golf. Your
I'm going to
aircraft
put that
call
heading
sign
in
for the
there.
aircraft type again.
Okay, I'm going to hit heading mode, and we're going to
slant golf.
engage
That's what I
and
got out
arm
of the ICAO.
that. I'm going to adjust the volume
Better.
here. It's real loud.
November 287 Juliet Bravo, clear to
That's a little bit better.
Sacramento International Airport. Check in 2 departure, check in the notice found. Climb via the SID, accept, maintain 15,000. Squawk 3041.
That's even better still. We can actually climb a little bit faster here to
Roger,
maintain.
Eclipse November
We're looking for about
287 Is
110
cleared
here.
to the Sacramento Airport via the Truncan Truncan departure as via the SID. Climb to
So I'm just going to go ahead and
15,000.
punch in direct Big Creek here.
41, 7 Bravo.
Set on the GPS,
Juliet Bravo,
just the course.
Got cut off there, and just want to verify the squawk is 3041.
And we're going to hit nav mode. That will give us a small correction.
Roger,
We're pretty much on
3041,
course at this
7
point.
Bravo.
Or 7 Juliet Bravo, read back correct. Thanks.
So we will continue climbing. RPM is about
November
25.
302 Victor Mike, NorCal, out of here.
And we're and
02
full
Victor Mike.
pressures. We're at full
2
power
Victor
now,
Mike,
so that'll work.
contact NorCal, departure 125.25.
And 125.25 for Mike.
And once we get into cruise, we'll go ahead and close the. Actually, no, cow flaps are good where they are. So yeah, so PilotEdge originally covered just ZLA, so it's like the SoCal essentially, so like Los Angeles and that area. But with the Western expansion, they cover
West
quite a
Razor,
bit.
2 Victor Mike,
So they
departure,
basically
better
cover
contact,
from
stay
the
altitude.
West Coast to the Rocky Mountains, more or less. So
2 Victor Mike, Roger, and
they cover
this
Colorado
advisory
and
warning
Idaho
text
and Washington and Oregon, and then all the way down south to like Utah and Vegas and like Phoenix. So like quite a bit of coverage. The density is a little bit different. So like out west, there's fewer sort of larger airports that are covered, and the smaller airports don't have ATC. Like in ZLA, you pretty much get everything, but it's definitely not bad at all. So that's part of why I'm flying out of Spokane. That's sort of the one larger airport in this side of Washington that actually has coverage. And then Uniform 60 that we're going to is a real small airstrip, so that has no ATC in real life or in PilotEdge, but we'll still fly with flight following. So as we approach 100 knots here, I'm just going to lower our vertical speed. But yeah, it's a huge coverage area, so there's always like a towered airport that you can fly out of or into from an uncontrolled airport, and even if you're flying a turboprop or even like a faster piston, there's a lot of different flights. And right now the cloud shadows are going crazy. That's interesting. But and then if you want to fly faster stuff like jets, there's so many different airports and city pairs that you can go to. It's pretty great. So I'm just gonna go ahead and open our cow flaps here. Cylinder temps are getting a little high. Oil temp and pressure looks good though. Everything else is fine. prop RPM's just a tiny bit high. There we go. And we're doing good here around 105 knots, which is plenty fast. Go ahead and put my yaw damper on. And we're watching out for clouds. It's pretty clear out, but some of these bigger ones we might have to turn and avoid going through them. Just sort of see where we are when we get a little closer. So right now we're about an hour and a half away. If we're going at this speed, we're gonna... Let's see. Oh, that's weird. Not sure what happened there. Got a little random activation notice from X-Plane. X-Plane's feeling a tiny bit buggy today. Not sure what that is. Let's see, is our autopilot still engaged? Still climbing more or less on schedule. That was weird. Alright. So everything looks good here. Cylinder temps are a little hot, but really nothing, not going to be a problem. And we're at 7,500 feet, so we're getting pretty close to 10. Watching out for these clouds here. Just going to do a quick 10-degree left turn. Just give us a little
San
correction.
Francisco ground eclipse 287 Julia Bravo.
And if we need to pick up our IFR, we can. It looks like there's a little bit of rain at Uniform 60. It should be out of there by the time that we get there. Also, looks like there's a TFR over there. Oh yeah, okay, I saw this earlier during the briefing. So there's a TFR just to the immediate southwest of the field for firefighting. So we're just going to have to be mindful of not busting that. It's pretty small, and it's probably about...
Number 287, Julia Bravo, San Francisco.
5 miles from the field, so
runway.
We'll have plenty of margin there.
At intersection, Echo, taxi via Charlie.
Looking at the weather, nearby airport is reporting winds 120 at 5, 10 miles visibility, sky clear.
At Echo, taxi via Charlie.
So that's great. So by the time we get there, the rain should be out of the way. Shouldn't have to worry about clouds. Should be pretty nice. We're passing alongside these guys, so that's good. Oh yeah, so that TFR isn't actually technically enforced in PilotEdge. I don't think they don't enforce temporary flight restrictions. They do enforce like restricted flight areas, and they have MOA procedures for military operating areas. But yeah, I'm just doing that because it's in Flight, and it's better to be, in my opinion, just for what I'm trying to do, it's better to be mindful about that stuff than not. Let me go ahead and toss the landing lights on here, off here. And that's 9,000, so 1,000 feet to go. There's clouds on the right. I don't think they're building. I think they're staying pretty consistent. I'm going to go ahead and get us on a parallel course to where we're trying to go. Just watch out for those guys. But yeah, no, that's a real world firefighting TFR, because there's some forest fires going on in Idaho. Looks like it's like in the Payette National Forest, maybe, just southwest of Big Creek. Alright, we're starting to slow down a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and take this down to 500 feet per minute. That's sort of the minimum climb that I'd want to do. Looks like we're not actually getting flight following from tower, so because we definitely didn't get a handoff, so I'm just gonna roll with that. Might do a return trip. Might not. Not really sure. Coming up on 10,000 feet here, so let's go ahead and start looking at our power tables.
Turn left turn, heading 360, vector to ILS runway 16 right, final approach 5.
So at around 10,000 feet, we're gonna want Best forward speeds, we're going to look for 55% power, which is 2,500 RPM at 21.7 inches manifold pressure. That should give us about 170 knots with no wind. Looking at the en route wind right now, we should have 7
Over
knot
2 major
tailwind,
mic,
so we
maintain 3,000.
should be expecting a GPS speed of around
Over 2 Victor, I came from the left turn, 360, maintain 3,000.
around 180, probably a little bit less than that. We'll see how well the this Bonanza actually lines up with real world power tables. It's pretty good, but it can be a little bit hit or miss sometimes.
Connect San Francisco Tower, have a good day.
Gonna go ahead and redo the direct and put us back in nav
Tower
mode, point us
70.
right at the airport. Alright, so we're at 10,000 feet. I'm gonna go ahead and pull back the power here. So we're looking for 2,500 RPM and 21.7 manifold. So we're already at, we're a little under 21 on the manifold. So we'll just take this back a little bit. We're really not adjusting the power at all. Adjusting the prop just a little bit to keep us down. And you can see we're slowly accelerating here, so we'll see how fast we get to. We're also probably about 10 minutes in, so I'll go ahead and flip the tank here. Keep it nice and even. Might just set us down to like the next power level, just to keep the engine from cooking. It's not redlining, but it's not great. It's definitely a little hot. We'll see if it stays under the red line with the cow flaps closed. So it looks like we're passing those clouds, which is good. Oh, that's annoying. Let's not do that. So it should be like more like 45 minutes until we're there. Some nice areas over here. Gonna be some cool terrain popping up. I don't know if I have any ortho for this area. I don't really fly here very often. I'm pretty sure these are all stock textures, which are not bad. They're pretty good out of the box. So let's see. We've got a couple nearby airports if we needed to divert, if we had any issues. We've got 73 Sierra to our left and 72 Sierra on our right.
Clips 287, Juliet Bravo, San
Both of them
Francisco
pretty
Tower,
close to us.
40 at 11, runway 20 right at Echo, quick takeoff.
And then it's going to be like another 10 minutes before we're kind of close to another airport, and that'll be Pullman. And then we're sort of close to like Lewis Strong and stuff like that, and or Grantville. And then there's sort of a gap in coverage, because we're going to go over some mountainous areas. Let's see, are we still accelerating here? Not really. So we're showing 155 indicated, which is a little slower than we want. So, let's see here. Everything's looking good though. Cylinder temp's coming down a little bit, even with the cow flaps closed, so that's good. Anyway, since we're definitely not getting flight following, I'll go ahead and just throw us on guard so we can listen to what's going on. See if anything's going on. It's pretty quiet on the network. Certainly wasn't anyone else out at Spokane. Let's pull up the network map, see who's online.
Number 7 Juliet Bravo, on your turn, connect NorCal departure.
I am the only one in the Western expansion right now, I think. That's impressive. Yeah, there's a decent amount of traffic in SoCal.
Departure, connect the other NorCal.
A couple guys up near San Francisco, but it is dead up in the northwest, which is kind of a bummer.
For 287 Juliet Bravo, NorCal departure, radar contact. Altitude got cut off there, altitude indicates 4,000 now, climb and maintain 15,000.
So that's kind of a bummer. It's very lonely up in the northwest today.
Road 2 Victor Mike, connect NorCal approach 125.4.
See what the focus fields are today. So today is Tuesday. Focus fields are Hawthorne, I believe, and Meadows Field. No, Whiteman. Whiteman's KWHP. Whiteman and Meadows Field.
Road 2 Victor Mike, not sure you got the frequency change there. Connect NorCal approach 125.4, 25.4.
Alright, so we're making pretty good progress. We're definitely a little slower than I'd like to be. So let's see what GPS is saying our ground speed is.
Road 302 Victor Mike, NorCal approach, roger. Fly heading 340.
Yeah, so it's saying 167.
And you say intentions after the approach?
Yeah, so it looks like we're just underperforming our
Road 2 Victor Mike, roger. And,
underperforming here on our cruise, which is fine. We are a little tiny bit under our manifold pressure here.
Road 2 Victor Mike, understood. And the capital altimeter 295.
So that's kind of a bummer. So we're ending up being like 10 knots slower than we should be. But we still have that tailwind, so that's helping us a little bit. So 167 isn't bad. It's not amazing, but it's pretty typical. 777 Coltrane, what's up? Welcome to the stream. We're at the boring part. So we're leaving Spokane and heading down to Big Creek, Idaho. Doing a tiny bit of backcountry flying. Flight's going really good so far. Had a pretty uneventful departure. Failed to remind the controller that I wanted flight following, and we're way out of his coverage zone. So I could call up approacher center, but at this point it's not worth it because there is absolutely zero traffic in the northwest today. So empty skies. So we're going to head down to Big Creek, which is this nice little airstrip sort of tucked into the mountains. But it's the turf isn't supposed to be in decent condition, so we'll see how X-Plane does it. And it's 3,500 feet and I think 110 width, so it's pretty decent sized. So that'll be fun. There's some rain right there right now, so sort of hoping that moves out of the area by the time we get there. It's kind of looking stationary based on what ForeFlight's showing. So that could end up being a pain in the butt because there are definitely no instrument approaches, but if that happens, we have a couple places we can bail to. None of them super nearby though, so we'll see how that goes. But so far so good, cruising at 10,000 feet here. Kind of in the middle of nowhere. This is true, rain does not necessarily mean IFR. And the nearby airports are reporting clear, good visibility and no clouds, so it's pretty small isolated stuff. So it's always a gamble to see how X-Plane actually renders that out. It's kind of like the only gripe I still have with X-Plane. It's a wonderful platform, but it doesn't really get storms or like rain, that kind of weather. It doesn't really render that out very, very well. But that's asking a lot for a sim. For what it is, it's pretty damn perfect. And with PilotEdge, it's even better. So the terrain's not too terrible here. As we get further along, it'll be a little bit more aggressive. So finding bailout paths and stuff like that will be a little bit more important. For the most part, our flight path keeps us in sort of more lowlands, but there's some pretty unfriendly stuff out here. This stuff like right ahead of us would not be fun to have to get into. We could bail out over here, which is fine, or potentially go over it. But even like the sort of like flat areas, you can sort of see there's some terrain and some texture there. It's not actually flat. And I think in real life it's even more rocky. But it's fairly decent. I didn't get a chance to put any ortho together before coming out today. Kind of just did this spur of the moment because I haven't streamed in a long time. But X-Plane 11 does a good job in the default mode. Looks like we got our wind increase in Idaho. That's fine. So we're probably going to come in from the south end. Or to the south, rather, from the north. So going to runway 19. Which is good, because that'll help us bypass that TFR. So we'll just sort of make a straight in approach, or we can enter the pattern and do a left-hand pattern. Or we can enter a right downwind, actually. That could work.
Seneca 2, Victor Mike, turn left heading 270, descend and maintain 2000.
Man, the radios are so quiet tonight. It's such a... I guess that makes sense. It's 7:30 Eastern on a Tuesday. Not a whole lot going on. I'll have to find some more like high traffic areas. Do some ZLA stuff. There's some interesting weather out west too. There's just like a lot of patchy stuff, looks like. Kind of all over the place. So we're like officially in Idaho now, I believe.
No 7 Juliet Bravo, contact NorCal approach 124.32.
Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and swap tanks here. See what our fuel burn's like. Fuel burn's not bad. I think that's a little high. Pull out the charts. Looking for 14.5 gallons per hour. Actually, we're right at 14.5, so that's great. So the fuel burn, accurate. The actual engine performance isn't quite on the numbers today.
Roger, Roger. Notice we have the weather at Capital, and I expect a visual approach for me 16 right.
So let's see. Our field elevation is going to be like 5,700 feet MSL, which is nice and high. So
7 miles from
pattern
turn
will
left heading
be
190,
6,700.
2000 until established on the localizer. Clear now, 316 right approach.
Should be no problem. So yeah, this will be really interesting. So the mountains aren't too terribly high, but we'll have to do a little bit of creative routing in here. So we'll come in from the northwest, go in through one of the larger valleys and follow, I think that's a riverbed. Yeah, it's like a little creek and a road that follows the creek, and we'll follow that in. And hopefully we'll get decent visibility on the field. That's sort of always the question. But it's a nice long field, so plenty of room to set her down. Definitely would be less challenging than Ranger Creek. That's like my favorite place to fly in the northwest, and that's just southeast of Seattle. And so if you go like out of Seattle and you track southeast, see if I can find it in ForeFlight right away. There we go. So like it's northeast of Mount Rainier. And so that's really fun. You also follow the creek in, but the terrain is pretty aggressive. So you've got a really tight window. And then the runway itself is it's not terrible because it's in asphalt. It's not super long. It's like 2,500 feet. And the tree clearance is just crazy. There's really not a lot of room on the frontal approach path. Sort of have to drop right in. But it's definitely a really fun field to fly into. Bonanza is probably like the biggest thing that I feel comfortable actually like consistently getting in there. Anything else and that's like too much. I think I tried the Epic Victory and the Epic E1000, and like those things can land in pretty. They don't need a whole lot of runway, but they like to keep up the speed, even on final. They're not super fast, but they're not slow. So that's really challenging. But a lot of fun. Definitely overshot that runway many a time. I'll have to make a trip out there sometime soon and actually see it for real.
Number 2, Victor Mike on a Capitol Tower. Number 287 Juliet Bravo NorCal approach. Just maintain 11 11,000.
Alright, so we're like approaching the halfway point, more or less. Which is great. So we're just west of the Dvorak Reservoir, east of Lewiston. So I'm going to go ahead and start thinking about terrain here, figuring out the sort of best path.
Static 302 Victor Mike Capitol Tower, runway 16 right, cleared lower bridge, then on your departure, proceed to the Sacramento Executive Airport. In order to Victor Mike, maintain VFR below 2,000 on the go.
Yeah, this is going to be really fun. So I think I found a good place to drop in here and then do just kind of a little S-turn following the valley. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that works out. So let's see. Just looking at the AFD here. Airport remarks unattended. Big game animals in and vicinity of the airport. Open to ski-equipped aircraft in the winter. Aircraft use sides of strip during ski ops. Recommend land to south, take off to north when conditions allow. No winter maintenance. Be alert for sprinklers on runway. Runway 0119, edges and thresholds marked with white rock. No telephone available at the airport. CTAF is 22.9. And just checking our NOTAMs. Everything looks good. It's just that firefighting NOTAM, that TFR.
Flight 7, Juliet Bravo, 7, 4,000.
The runway, yeah, it's not, I mean, it's pretty good. There are some runways that are more of a hot mess for sure. Like Catalina, that's paved, but potholes and the gradient from the like the steepness of it is real annoying. So that's not super fun. You have to sort of treat that like a short field landing almost, or a soft field landing. And then there are definitely like some like straight up unimproved, super backcountry strips. This at least is like relatively like well groomed, in theory. But yeah, it's definitely a remote field, which is why it's fun. I love little fields like that. It's cool flying into the bigger airports too, but when you're in a smaller plane, it's so much nicer to just drop into a little tiny strip. It's a lot more fun. And this is a bit of a trip in order to get there, but I really wanted to leave a place with coverage to get a little bit of that.
To Victor Mike, Roger, proceed to the Sacramento Executive
All right.
Airport.
Well, while I'm just hanging out here, I want to. So, like, accessories have been coming in for the A7, which is really exciting. And I'm kind of bummed that it's not going to come in until tomorrow. So I will finally get my new camera tomorrow, but I'm going to be on it on a shoot. So I have to figure out. It's going to my office, but I have to figure out if they're still going to allow someone else to accept it. So I'm really getting pumped up for that. I've got like my little tiny rig going. I've got all of my adapters ready to go so I can use all of our L-glass and all of my Nikon stuff. I'm really excited. I actually just had a really good call today with one of the head honchos at one of the local rental houses. We were talking about gear and we were talking about the A7. And it's funny because like I really bought it originally to do sort of like digital medium format with that focal reducer, which I will get to, but yeah, I'll have to spend a lot more time playing with the video features on it. The one sort of like big downside is like you have this big wonderful sensor, but like the processor on it isn't super beefy because it's like a little hybrid camera, so the rolling shutter is like super terrible. But you know, for the kind of stuff that I potentially want to shoot on it, which is like mostly like travel stuff, it might have an effect for the handheld stuff, because my hands are not super steady, generally speaking. But you know, for like stationary stuff and for the most part, it should be fine. I gotta spend like more time looking at like all the codecs and features. I've only I've worked with the A7S, but not the A7. I mean, it's really the same thing. All the first generation A7 cameras, slightly different sensor and features and stuff like that. Generally speaking, the same menu structure and stuff. So I've shot with the A7S a few different times, like done some corporate work on it. But like the coolest thing that I've done with it is I shot some really interesting this short science fiction film. I worked as a camera op in a first AC for the A-Cam. And that was really cool because we were shooting in like these super lit, but like super dark and contrasty science fiction environments. So like there was like a spaceship set with all this crazy lighting. And that was really fun because the A7S like sees in the dark, so it worked really, really well. I don't think we shot in S-Log because you don't really get a lot of benefits of all that dynamic range when you're working in like a low light situation, because your actual dynamic range isn't, you know, 12 or however many stops you would get with the S-Log. But it looked really nice, and we shot it with these like vintage anamorphic lenses. That looked really good, so that was a lot of fun. So I would love to do some more cinema stuff with that. I'm interested to see if it'll end up sort of replacing my micro, because I love my micro to death. But the one thing I wish the micro did do is like take really amazing stills. So we're gonna see if the hybrid system is gonna work. Because I do love having 12-bit ProRes files out of the little camera. They look really, really nice. But if the Sony stuff, if I can tweak it to get it just looking really good out of the camera, then I'll probably just roll with that 9 times out of 10. And especially once I get the medium format adapter, once I get that running, that's going to be really cool. But now I'm going to be spoiled because like I have both. And if the Sony ends up just being easier to use, I don't know, I'll have to do a bunch of testing at some point. But I'm really looking forward to taking more stills. Like that's the main focus. I sort of forgot that it had movie-making abilities until I talked about it with someone today. And I was like, oh yeah, that's right. It's a really common like hybrid camera for filmmakers. I should take advantage of that. And the other thing is I'm hoping to rent some of those big servo lenses from LensPro, the big Sony E-mount native ones. Because I know you really, I forgot which one you had, because there are like 2 main ones, but I think you had like the 28-105 maybe? That was a really cool lens. So I'd love to put a big ENG lens on that just for fun. That's the other thing. So the C200 event last week was really freaking cool. It's a really interesting camera. But we also, just by hanging out there, we got to play with the C700, which I'm still trying to find the right opportunity to use it on. I know which DP is going to use it now, because one of the DPs doesn't want to use something that's sort of untested on a real project. But the real projects are like the cooler opportunities. But our other guy is really, really itching to try it, so that's going to be fun. But we played around with some of the big, like the 17-120 servo lens, which is a beautiful ENG style lens. And then the new 18-80, I believe, F4. That's like also sort of a servo, but like relatively affordable. And that's a really great choice for the C200, because the C200 is really clean at high ISOs, so the smaller aperture doesn't really matter so much. But the C200 is a real interesting, strange camera. I feel like it's sort of a sign of what's to come with the Canon stuff. We were talking about this earlier, where like the C200 is such like a strange. It sort of cannibalizes the higher end cameras, because like even something like the C700, like the really big, expensive $30,000 flagship camera from Canon. even that doesn't have like the raw options that the C200 does, like in
November 287, Julie Bravo, NorCal,
like built
approach,
in.
stand tension.
And so it kind of feels like the C200 is sort of
47 Julie Bravo, was
the
a right
beginning
turn.
of like a
Your
new
base
era
turn
for
runway
Canon,
16 right.
and it really cannibalizes their stuff. Like I can't imagine, like I don't know why you'd really buy a C300 Mark II now,
Cancel approach clearance,
or even a
maintain
C500
2000
or
airport
the
in sight.
C700. Certainly, it just feels like those just don't matter anymore at all.
That is it,
So-
sir. Okay, start flying eastbound, and then make right base, runway 16 right.
I think I heard some yelling in the background.
Or Sandra Bravo, cleared visual approach, runway 16 right,
interesting.
and
Not sure
remain
what's going on
5
there.
miles north of the airport.
Anyways, now I'm just nerding out about camera gear. But that's fun. That's definitely one of the favorite, like my favorite parts of the job is I don't have to worry so much about technology because like we have good stuff in stock and we run some cool stuff. I just get to sort of geek out at the latest and greatest. But I'll have to find, let me see if I can find a photo. So I grabbed a photo of Andy. Actually, I have a bunch of different photos. Let me find a photo because I got a really great photo that I haven't shared yet because I've been waiting for the blog post to come up, which will come up. Probably it'll be one of the first things that we share when we launch. We're going to do like a hands-on, and then we also have a Q&A with Canon.
Over 7 July Bravo, are you still able to continue?
But this is a really crappy
Over 7
cell
July
phone
Bravo,
photo.
contact Capital Tower 125.7.
But that's the big guy, the C700 on the right with the 17-120. And then on the left is the new guy, the C200, and that actually has a 24-105, I think, on that one. Either that, the 24-70, I can't remember. No, it's a 24-105 F4. So those are fun to play around with. Oh, and the other thing that's really cool about the C200 is it has Wi-Fi and it has also like
Over
wired
287
Ethernet
July
control.
Bravo,
And
Capital
it's
Tower
not
165,
app-based,
clear
it's
line.
just all through the browser. So it's really nice and easy to use. It doesn't require any extra installation. You can throw all that stuff into like a router and a switch and like do some really cool live multicam stuff. And the app lets you control pretty much everything, so you can treat the app like a CCU that's free and built in with the camera, which is pretty insane. So as a live streaming camera, it's pretty compelling. I don't know if it'd be my first choice because it's definitely like designed to be more of a higher end camera, but to have that kind of stuff built in, that flexibility is really dope. Anyways, getting closer to our destination here. I'm gonna start making some course tweaks to avoid some of the taller terrain.
401 Tango Sierra, you still on?
One Tango Sierra is on guard.
Roger, sorry about that. Can contact Seattle Center 132.6.
32.6 for 401 Tango Sierra.
Or 7 J Bravo, affirmative, running 16 right, clear 2 land.
I hope I didn't miss something from him way back because we're pretty far away. So let's see, we're looking for, it's still Seattle Center, right? Seattle Center, Bonanza 401, Tango Sierra is 10,000 feet VFR. We're just above Grangeville. Oh, no worries. So the photo that I shared, that's the C200 on the left, the little guy, and then the big guy on the right is the C700 with the codex box. Let's see, I didn't hear him. 34.6. Seattle Center. I'm going to try 24.6. Actually, I don't hear him here too. I'll make one more call in a second. Yeah, let me see if I have a better picture of the C200. Seattle Center, Bonanza 401 Tango Sierra. We'll wait a few more minutes, then we'll switch over to guard. So here's, I'm about to share a picture from the right-hand side. So the C200 like is very much like a C100, like pretty damn similar form factor. I'm gonna switch over to every guard. Bonanza 401 Tango Sierra on guard, looking for Seattle Center.
401 Tango Sierra, Seattle Center on guard. Contact Seattle Center 132.6, 32.6.
32.6 or 401 Tango Sierra, sorry. Seattle Center or Bonanza 401 Tango Sierra, 10,000.
401 Tango Sierra, Seattle Center, Ben.
Head in. There's the flash. Yeah, no, the C100, like, you know, I'm like...
401 Tango Sierra, radar contact, 4-5 miles southeast of the Nez Perce VOR. The Idaho County altimeter 3000.
00 position checks, 1 Tango Sierra. So yeah, the my experience with the C100 is always colored by like the C100 Mark I, which is still actually the two C100s that we have in-house are the Mark Is, but I remember shooting on those, you know, years ago when I was shooting like internal stuff for the university that I was working for, and really loved the camera in a lot of ways, but also like really got spoiled pretty quickly by using higher end stuff, and really just the ergonomics on it are like super awesome for handheld, but to do shoulder work you need to rig it up, and most of the places that I've worked just didn't have that stuff. They really expected you to do more like tripod or monopod and handheld stuff, not on the shoulder. Once you have the rigging for your shoulder, it's a pretty ergonomic camera, but you sort of need a bunch of different accessories to make it nice. And then you're just limited by that 8-bit image. So like once I got into red stuff and RE stuff, and then personally with the Blackmagic stuff, like once you have all that dynamic range and all of that image quality, it's really hard to go back to a pretty, even if the dynamic range is fine, you can't do anything with it because you've got a real crappy 4208-bit signal. And so the C200, you still have 8-bit MP4s, even in 4K, and that has its place. But the really exciting stuff is they're calling it Canon Raw Lite, I believe, and it's basically compressed RAW, but for some reason they're not allowed to say that it's compressed, or they tell you it's not compressed, but it has to be compressed because it's not full RAW. But that's the really exciting thing about this camera, is that you get sort of that middle tier pricing on it, and you get sort of that Canon look and reliability and stuff like that, but you end up getting like a really capable RAW camera out of the deal that can sort of hold up to some of your A cams, whether you're shooting RE or if you're shooting Epic, stuff like that. And you can record the stuff in parallel, I believe. Maybe it's not the full res MP4s. You might be limited in terms of frame rate or something like that, but there is an option where you can record the raw stuff and record proxies for editing and stuff like that. But the raw workflow wasn't bad. We did some test shots, and we rendered out just like a quick test timeline on the Rep's MacBook Pro that he had, which is a fairly older MacBook Pro. And it's pretty similar to red stuff. The red compression is...
Advised when you have Uniform 6 airport and saying no other information available for the Uniform 6 airport. The Idaho County wind was 360 at 7. Visibility 10 sky clear, altimeter 3000, and that was at the 2335 Zulu observation.
Alright, thanks for the weather. We'll give you a call me at the field and site Bonanza 1 Tango Sierra. Probably cancel IFR before then. We can focus. But yeah, the raw stuff's really interesting, but it's real. There aren't any options. Like in the red stuff, you can choose your compression ratio, and with the red stuff, basically what it does, which is really interesting. It's a really simple technical explanation that I just recently heard when I was talking to the guy that runs Off Hollywood, and basically all of the red compression is just different levels of JPEG 2000 compression, but applied towards pre-debayered data. So it's just like the sensor intensity. You're applying that same type of compression to that pre-debayered image data. I just hit my trim. That's not what I wanted you to do. Let's fix this real quick. My altitude's going to be all funky, but that's fine. It's always fun when you hit the trim button and disconnect your autopilot. Looks like we were real out of trim, or something was real weird there, because we had a nice roll to the right. I forgot what I was saying. Oh, anyways, like, you don't have that control over the compression with the C200, so you just get full, well, compressed, but you get this single level of compression, and it's still a gigabit per second, which is roughly comparing, like, the same resolution on the Epic with, like, I think your highest compression ratio. It's still, like, about 4 times that, so it's pretty close to, it's really lightly compressed. Even though they won't say it's compressed, it's lightly slimmed down, or whatever they want to say. So your data files are just freaking huge. But yeah, it's a cool camera. You sort of get like the low end, not the low end, but you get like those convenience features, being able to shoot 8-bit MP4s and just spit that out and edit it really quick. But then you also get that really nice RAW capability. And it's got like a full 10-bit output too, so you can use external recorders. And that's probably going to be the real use case, where like that external recorder adds ProRes, so you can do like sort of the middle of the road stuff, where you still have relatively high bit depth and like color information, and really solid image quality, but you're going to a ProRes file that's super easy to edit and relatively light in terms of storage size and processing power you need. Yeah, well, on the Sony side, things are really interesting. They just released a paid upgrade to the firmware upgrade to the FS5, and so man, I forgot exactly what it does, but the big thing is it enables RAW capture, like internal RAW capture. So there's the version 4.0, and you get 120 frame per second continuous recording. You get lower ISO settings for S-Log 2 and 3, and then you get this HDR specific log gamma. I thought you also got raw recording, but I might be completely wrong about that. It might just be the slow-mo and the log stuff. And you get some more like sort of codec options, and then like a lot of other sort of like smaller things. But the thing is, with the FS5, you have to pay $500 for that firmware upgrade, which is kind of silly. But the FS5 is a pretty capable camera, especially for the price, and they're not super popular because the new firmware options, like, that really gives it sort of a breath of new life. Because before that, it was a fine camera, but it was kind of an ugly duckling. It didn't really fit anywhere. But the FS7 is really popular. There are a lot of people that don't like working with it. It's kind of a pain in the butt to work with, but the image quality is really good, and it pretty much sees in the dark, which is cool. Pretty sure we're boring everyone talking about camera shit, but yeah, the FS7 is really fun. I've seen it on a lot of reality shows that I was working on back in the day when it first came out. It's definitely a capable camera. But honestly, if you were thinking about an upgrade and you were thinking about like more of a proper sort of camera, I still love the Blackmagic stuff. Like, for the price point, you can't beat it. And I've never had some of those bigger technical issues and had to deal with poor support and stuff like that. Like, generally speaking, my experiences have been pretty damn good. It's just one of those things that you have to roll with. Yeah, sorry about that, 777. It's I'm a commercial producer, and I come from a camera, like a technology background, so love nerding out about video stuff. I can do it all day, and we've been doing a lot of that stuff now. So we've been looking at some like upgrade options for our camera fleet, because we have a suite of sort of high-end cinema cameras and some lower-end stuff too. We even have a DSLR. I think a couple of DSLRs actually that we still use now and again. And we're also working on a studio setup right now. So we're building a new studio. We just hung like our lighting grid and did the electrical work and stuff like that. So a bunch of lighting stuff. Actually, Nick, that's like, I can't wait for the Quasar Science tubes to come in. Those are going to be so much fun. I'm gonna have to bring, because we got a dozen of them, and we're only gonna put 10 up in the grid, so we have just 2 to play with. And I'm definitely gonna try and come down to DC or something at some point and bring them both. They're pretty great. Alright, so we've got some nice little terrain coming up here. I'm going to go ahead and do just like a 5-degree turn to the left here. Nothing major, just sort of get us set up. So we're about 13 minutes out, so probably time to start focusing on the approach. Gonna go ahead and flip the gas tanks. I'm a little overdue on that. Make sure our landing light's on. I'm gonna go ahead and call Seattle Center and go ahead and cancel our IFR. Seattle Center, Bonanza 401, Tingus here. We'd like to cancel IFR.
I think I see everybody wanted to cancel flight following.
Affirm, we'd like to, sorry, cancel flight following in the air for Tingus here.
No, on Tingus here. It's terminated.
That's right, we're not IFR.
Change of room.
Alright, it's walking VFR, so long, 401 Tingus here.
See ya.
There we go. 1200. Yeah, the voltage things is kind of a bummer. I mean, they're pretty good converters, and like honestly, on some, like, you can, you know, for the stuff that you do, it might be. No, it wasn't IFR. It definitely screwed up that call. Wasn't paying attention. We definitely just had flight following. So like for your situation, it might be like worth investing in like a nice kind of little like power converter box, like something sort of like maybe made for like the like either like the theatrical world or something like that. Something that can handle multiple voltages. And especially like nowadays for like LED stuff, they're pretty tolerant. Like there's stuff out there I know for sure that runs on 120 and 240. Like all you just need is the adapter, because the power supplies that are built in are real flexible like that, which is really cool because the power draw is so low. I think the Quasars might be like that. I'm not sure if you're locked into 120. Alright, so we're sort of coming up towards a little bit of an intersection in some of the terrain here. It's not super high-res terrain because it's just the default stuff here. But there's sort of this valley here, and this valley, and this valley, and this valley. And so what we're going to do is once we get here, I think we're going to follow this one in, more or less. No, actually, we're gonna stay on top of it and then dip in the next sort of valley up ahead. Yeah, so it looks like the Quasar tubes are, you have to buy a 240 or a 120 version, which is kind of a bummer. But the new ones, they have the lithium-ion battery-powered ones. That's really what you got to do. Just everything off of the battery. You don't have to worry about voltage at all. I am indeed landing on a grass strip. So we're coming into Uniform 60 in Idaho here, and it's a 3,500 foot somewhat decently maintained turf and dirt strip. Yeah, I saw that. I have no idea. I think I have the auto mod on like medium, so I've honestly never actually had it pop up with anything, so that was fun. So let's see here. Alright, so yeah, we're just going to follow this bend a little bit to the left. Well, with the charging stuff, that's with the quasar tubes, the lithium, all that's charged via micro USB, so as long as you have a phone charger, you'll be good to go. I think by the time I got back from Europe last year when I did like my month out, I think I had like 4 different phone chargers. It was kind of annoying. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I need to... That's one of the things that I'm most excited about. Like, once we get the Learning Hub up and running is, like, we're going to be able to play around with a lot of different gear. And I got to figure out sort of exactly what our budgets are for stuff like that. Because I know that they're going to be somewhat limited as we start, but I would love to just look at cheap gear and finding stuff that actually, like, works really well and is nice to work with and fits right in sort of like a higher-end production environment. Because, honestly, like, at a certain level, like, unless... Like, with real high-end clients, when you're working with their creative teams, like, they know enough to be a little bit more picky about stuff like that. But in most situations, it really doesn't matter. And so, like, as long as the quality is good and, like, it's a tool that you really feel comfortable working with and it gets you really good results, go for it. Like, doesn't really matter what the brand name is. So as long as it works and it's relatively reliable, that's great. Alright. So this terrain's kind of confusing. It's matching up alright to what I'm seeing in ForeFlight, but I'm going to go ahead and turn off the autopilot. I'm going to start rolling to the right because it likes to do that apparently. I'm going to go full rich on the mixture. And we're going to go ahead and go full forward on the prop. It feels like a little tiny bit of bumps. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to go fly. I think we'll do an overflight of the field just to sort of check it out. Oh, that's a bummer. That's a really useful tool to be able to sort of swap back and forth between to add green and magenta and stuff like that. I wonder if that probably doesn't have DMX, but I wonder if there's a way to sort of trick it into doing that. So we're just being conscientious of escape routes, and basically, like, these valleys are relatively wide. The one that's straight in front of us, directly under us, isn't great right now, but off to the left is fine. Looks like there's a strip right there, actually. Yeah, that's good. That's U79. That's Chamberlain. So that's good to know. So that's a nice deep valley there. We're not gonna want to follow that one, but I think no, I'm a little turned around here. Definitely unfamiliar with the terrain. It's not like Aspen, which is like my favorite place to hang out. Okay, I kind of see where we are right now. So this is good. We're flying a little bit more to the east here. That gives us some more options. So this gonna start turning into this area down here. All right, we're gonna start thinking about landing. So we're gonna have guard up, because why not? And then CTAF is 22.9. Cool. CTAF's on COM 1. Let's see how far away. About 10 miles to the north. We'll go ahead and give a call. I mean, I don't actually know if radio reception would be that great because we've got a lot of terrain here. ForeFlight's letting me know that TFR is ahead. Right, so we're on 122.9. Big creek traffic. You got a green and silver Bonanza coming in from the north. We're about 10 miles out, and we're going to be making a left-hand circuit in the pattern before coming in on runway 19 for Big Creek. It's a long call, but it's fine. Alright, so we're going to start making our way towards the field. We need to eventually get to about 7,000 feet our pattern altitude, so we're just being conscious to make sure that we don't... I'm sort of predicting that I'm going to come in high anyways, because I'm just unfamiliar with the area. I'm anxious about staying or getting too low and not having a real good escape route in case something goes down. So we're going to stay high for now. Weather is great though. Looks like that rain moved out of the area. Yep. It's nice and clear out. So we'll just hang out here. We're coming in through this valley. We'll go ahead and make a slight right turn, follow this down. On ForeFlight, the terrain looks a little bit like there's more like sort of linearity in the valleys here. It's not quite how it's shaping up to be. It's not ahead. That's just some terrain. Go ahead and descend a little bit here. So I've got my terrain, my hazard advisor on in ForeFlight, so be able to really clearly see any problems as they pop up. As we do that, I'm just going to reduce the power a little bit. Just confirming our landing lights are on. We'll go ahead and do sort of a quick gumps check here. So gas, undercarriage, gears up for now. We're going to do just a circuit around. Make sure improper full, and seatbelts are on. So it looks like I'm a little off here. So I'm going to make a right-hand turn over this crest. See if I can get back on course. It's really tricky. I remember when I was like first doing a lot of flying around Aspen, like I had similar issues of just sort of losing sort of my situational awareness in terms of where exactly I am. Because especially with like this hilly terrain or this mountainous terrain, it's very similar patterns and the terrain features are kind of repetitive. So it's really hard to sort of figure out where you're at. We're still all the way up at 9,300 feet too, and we're going to need to get down to around 7,000. So that's quite a bit to go here. So I think this is actually the valley that we're going to want to fly in. So I'm just going to do a quick little 180 here. We'll lose some altitude. Going to go ahead and pull back on the power a little bit more. Trying to stay at around 150. This will be really interesting. This is feeling a lot more challenging than I was expecting. All this terrain's a lot of fun. So we're going to go ahead and make a right-hand turn around here. Get back into this valley. This should lead us to the airport. So I'm guessing we're going to see it in front of us when we roll out. Oh, there it is. See, it's right there. I knew I was going to come in super high. You can sort of tell where you are with ForeFlight, but unless you know the area, you sort of lose your sense of scale. So we're going to overfly here, see if there's a windsock down there that I can see. Yeah, this looks like wind's coming out of the... Yeah, coming out of the south there. Perfect. So, given the terrain here, I think I'm going to fly left. Do like a climb here. Just come out on the left-hand side here. And I know there's no one here, but I should be making traffic calls. So go ahead and do that right now. Big Creek traffic, green and silver Bonanza is on a left crosswind, runway 19, Big Creek. Got terrain coming up nice and fast. Gonna push the power a little bit. It's a real interesting approach here. That terrain on the left-hand side is pretty gnarly, so I think I'm going to gain some altitude in here and try and come at it from this way, see if that works for me. With this kind of flying, like, familiarity with the area is like so important, so that because there's not like a glide slope or like a very clear approach path. You know, there's not like a big straight-in path. So this is making it real challenging. So we'll come up on the crest here, continue on to the right, just checking out here. Yeah, so we can follow that valley in pretty good. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and pull the power back a little bit. Do just a little bit of a right-hand turn here and then go into a left 180. Yeah, this terrain's no joke. I'm trying to keep, you know, sort of like a mini escape route to the front, to the left of me, so I can escape away from the terrain if I need to, but it's pretty much all around me. It's pretty intense. So I can't actually get into that valley. That's going to be a dead end for me, I believe. So I need to pull my turn a little bit close here. So I'm going to go ahead and put our approach flaps in. I'm also going to put our gear down. Just keep the power up to give us speed. And we're going to get configured essentially for the final approach. We're essentially on a left base here. Big Creek traffic, silver and green Bonanza on a left base, runway 19 Big Creek. So this is feeling much better now. So I know exactly where the airport is, know where I am in relation to the valley. We're passing 8,000 feet on our way to about 6,700. Power's coming down, gear is down. Do another gumps check. So gas is on the right-hand tank, and our gear is down. Our flaps are now full, and mixture's full, props full, seat belts are on, landing lights are on, strobe lights are on. And I'm going to call a 2.5 mile final. Big Creek traffic, green and silver Bonanza on a 2.5 mile final at Big Creek. And still feeling a little high for this. Still trying to sort of figure out that final approach course because it's definitely sort of offset. And don't have great visibility here. This is fine though. We're just going to sort of follow that road in. I should be going a little bit slower than I am now, looking for around like 95 knots or so. And we're just going to trim accordingly. A little fast here. Just watching for the train, watching for the trees. This is a lot of fun. Just lining up on short final. Okay, a little off to the right here, just correct, real quick. Great. And a little long here. Oh, floating it. Alright, so I've got full deflection on the elevator here. Not too worried about the length. Gonna go ahead and start braking. Just gentle braking here. Alright, that wasn't bad. Definitely a little long, and then I floated just a tad, but had plenty of margin to work with, which is great. Gonna go ahead and lean up the engine here. Alright, flaps coming up. And I gotta find a nice place to park. I don't know, should I find a place to park or should I go around again? God, I don't want to go around again, that was pretty fun. I'm gonna back taxi. Big Creek traffic, green and silver Bonanza. Back taxiing, runway 19, departing. Negative. Big Creek traffic, green and silver Bonanza is going to be departing runway 31. Sorry, runway 0 run, Big Creek. Terrible call there. Okay, let's try and do this. So we're going to have like a little bit of a quartering tailwind from the right-hand side, which will be interesting. And so we'll come out to the right-hand area over here. That was just too fun to not do again. So we're going to keep our flaps up. We're going to do a short field takeoff. So we're going to hold our brakes here. We're going to go full rich, full prop. Landing lights are on. Crosswind corrections in. And we're going to go ahead and set our takeoff power. Keep the elevator up and our crosswind correction in. And here we go on the roll. Correcting. Here we go. Ooh, airspeed's alive. Man, this becomes a lot shorter going this way with the tailwind. She doesn't want to fly. There we go. That's pretty bananas. Here's going to come up. Pitch for best angle here. Oh man, that's pretty intense. That is very intense. This airplane basically barely has the performance to do that. Alright, so we're just going to do a quick loop here and then come back in. I don't want to push my luck too much. It's kind of insane. It's pretty impressive for the Bonanza though. It's not a weak airplane, but it's also a pretty heavy airplane. So being able to clear all that terrain and those trees and stuff like that, not an easy feat, especially this high up. So I'm going to find a good place to turn around here. We're a lot lower than we were when we were coming inbound. So I'm going to do this one more time and then call it a night. It's just too much fun to not try again. So I'm going to go ahead and make this right-hand turn here and then do a left 180. Come in through the valley. Gonna get a little bit more altitude here. Got a little bit of energy with that speed. Nick, I hope you were watching that. I'm gonna be so upset if you weren't. I was really pretty proud of that landing. Alright, let's come in and do this again. So left 180. And we need to be on the left side of this ridge, so let's hurry up on that turn. And then as soon as we level out, we're going to start descending a little bit, and we're also going to ease up on the power. We're going to go ahead and put our first notch flaps in. That'll help slow us down. And we're going to go ahead and gear comes down. Gear lock 3 green, and I'm going to final approach flaps. Alright, lights are on. Gas is on the right hand tank. Gear is down. Mixture is full. Props full. Power is set. Looking for about 95 knots on the final. Stay at 100 for now. That excess speed is really helpful. Because doing a go around here, it's not terrible. Like, you've got that area off to the left here. It's pretty gentle on the terrain, but you have to make a pretty tight turn, and you still have some terrain to deal with. So going around here is not the easiest thing in the world, so try and avoid that. So we're going about 90 now, so we can pick it up on the speed just a little bit. And that blind spot's always fun, so we'll use that road. So I think once that road gets in the middle of my blind spot, we'll go ahead and start that turn. Come off the power as we descend here. Yeah, we're a little high. We can make up for that pretty easily. It's a very sporty approach. Got a lot of excess speed though. We'll see how bad that comes back to haunt us. Because this thing really drops like a rock in the flare if you've got 0 power. Oh, man, floated it. Yeah, we're gonna go around. Definitely could have made that, but that was not feeling good. Just had a little too much energy there. Gears coming up. I'm going to be making that immediate left-hand turn here. Now I'm in an interesting pickle though. So let's see where exactly I can go to. Because the terrain is definitely not super friendly here. So I think I'm going to continue climbing on the right-hand side here, do a left 180, and then come back in again. So what happens when you push your luck? Right, flaps all the way up. Ooh, actually didn't really have the airspeed to do that. That's not a great idea. That's fine. Get that airspeed back. Man, performance is not great. It still feels too early to do a 180 yet. Gonna give myself a little bit more room here. We've got that TFR though, so I'm gonna have to haul ass. This is fun. That's not bad. Let's keep the ball centered. Try and maintain some positive vertical speed here. Alright, so I'm going to try and do something like a short approach here, I think. Just coming on a left downwind. See if I can do it, sort of time it with the terrain dropping off, sort of this ridge in front of me, just right behind it, just coming in back around. It's right about 7,000 feet, which is a little above pattern altitude. But honestly, a good pattern altitude to be at, considering the terrain here. So let's see. Yeah, we'll sort of cheat out to the right and sort of come down. So I guess I'll configure myself for approach now. So I'll come off in the power just a little bit. Also just get like a little bit of altitude here, trade some speed for altitude. Because at this point I kind of just want to come in, have had my fun. Alright, go ahead and put 1 notch of flaps in. And gear comes down. And 2nd notch of flaps in. And we are fully configured, and we're going to do a steep turn in here. Make a nice aggressive approach in. Giving myself a little bit of power and putting my nose pitching down for a little bit more speed. but trying not to overdo it because I was definitely a little bit fast last time. So I'm going to cut way back on the power a little bit earlier in the approach now. Still kind of high here. Okay, I'm going to full idle, so we should see the speed bleed off real quickly here. A little off to the right. Totally fixable. Alright, full deflection on the elevator, a little too much. Still definitely felt a little bit long there. It's really tricky in the Bonanza, and I'm not sure if it's like this in real life, but in this model it really will just the floor will drop out from under you if you go all the way to idle in the flare. So you try to keep a little bit of power in the whole way, but then you're trying to balance, you know, if you have too much power, if you have too much energy, you end up floating a little bit. But luckily, this runway is plenty long enough to support that. So we're going to go ahead and back taxi here, find a nice place to park. Probably up around that that guy over there. I don't think that's a King Air. Maybe that's a King Air. I don't know. That's a King Air. That's something else. I don't know my twins very well. We can actually just fit in right here, right between the 172. That looks like a 152 actually, that's kind of small. And no, it's a 172. Alright, flip here. Boom. Alright, parking brakes on. The RPMs up for a little bit. Avionics are going to come off, and we're going to go ahead and go to standby there. Landing lights come off, strobe lights come off, nav lights come off, flaps come all the way up. Well, that's interesting. What happened there? Huh. Looks like I had a failure of some sort. My, my throttle quadrant disconnected there. Yeah, there we go. Well, premature engine shut down there, but that's fine. Okay, magnetos come all the way off. All the way off. All the way off. Fuel goes there. And beacons all the way off. There we go. Cool, so that was a fun flight into this airport, which is Uniform 60, Big Creek, Idaho, from Spokane, Washington. So that was pretty fun.